All right, I thank everyone for coming this morning, and thank you for adjusting to this new space. I'm sorry that I'm at a bit of a distance and standing high up on the bima, but I'm with you. I'm with you in spirit. Okay. So this morning we have the special merit, opportunity to study the words of Rav Kook, the teachings of Rav Kook. And the topic is a topic that is near and dear to all of us, and it's the topic of Talmud Torah, the study of Torah. And Rav Kook has I want to share with you three drachim, three paths in Torah study that are unique to Rav Kook, to the thinking of Rav Kook, and to the way of life of Rav Kook. And teachings that I think will be very inspirational for all of us. So let's begin with the first teaching, the first idea of Rav Kook. And one of the ideas that we have regarding Torah study is the idea of Torah Lishma. We have study of Torah, and we also have what's called Torah Lishma. Actually, it's part of our davening as we start every day. It's the first source on the sheet. We begin every morning with a prayer that our learning should be va'arevna, that it should be sweet in our mouths. And then we say, Kulanu Yodei Shemecha, that all of us should study the Torah, that we should know the name of God, we should know the teachings of the Torah. Velomdei Toratcha Lishma. We should study Torah Lishma. That is the prayer that we pray for every day as we start our day in the Birchos HaTorah. And the question is, and many have spoken about this question, what is Torah Lishma? I know what Talmud Torah is, but what is this unique category that's called Torah Lishma? So one of the most famous interpretations of Torah Lishma is found in the writings of Rav Chaim Volozhin. We're going to see his approach, and then we're going to see the approach of Rav Kook, what he adds. And Rav Chaim Volozhin is famous for teaching the following, and I'll read to you what Rav Chaim Volozhin writes, and this comes from Nefesh HaChaim, his famous work. He was the great Talmud of the Vilna Gaon. And you see source number 2, Inyan Eisek HaTorah Lishma. What does it mean to study Torah Lishma? Ha'emet ha'barur. It's absolutely true, it's understood. Ki lishma ein perusho dvekut. He says, first we need to know that when we talk about Torah Lishma, we do not mean Torah that we're studying in order to be closer to God. Dvekut. Now, that is a nice benefit, and maybe a very important benefit of Torah, but that's not the definition of what it means, Torah Lishma. What is Torah Lishma? Go to the next, this is from the third perek, from Shara Dalit of Nefesh HaChaim. It's number 3, right in sort of the middle of your page. Aval ha'emet ki inyan lishma perush l'shem ha'torah. What does it mean, Torah Lishma? Torah means the study of Torah that we do for the sake of knowing the Torah. That we love the Torah, that we want to know the wisdom of the Torah. Why all of us are here this morning. We're studying because we want to understand more. We want to know the Torah. And that, says Rav Chaim Volozhin, is the definition of Torah Lishma. I heard an interpretation of this. When you think about tshuva, we have tshuva me'ira, tshuva me'ava. Tshuva me'ira, we repent. Yira means out of awe. In other words, we're afraid possibly that we're going to be punished, that it's something negative that we want to change. But tshuva me'ava means that we do tshuva because we love Hashem. We love the Torah, we love the mitzvah. That's tshuva, a repentance out of love. And that's a way to understand the Nefesh HaChaim as well. We come to the Torah, we engage in Torah study because we love the Torah, because we want to know the Torah, because the Torah is a very part of who we are, and we want the Torah to be a very part of us as well. So that is the famous teaching. Many have spoken about Rav Chaim Volozhin, this interpretation. This becomes the very foundation of the Litvish world of Torah learning, where Torah learning is a central mitzvah, and that we study Torah because we want to know Torah. Because, what does it mean, Lishma? For the sake of Torah itself. Okay. Rav Kook. There's a very beautiful work of Rav Kook. It's actually a collection of his teachings, and it's called Orot HaTorah. It's a whole collection of teachings, all different ideas, and we're going to see a number of them this morning, all surrounding Torah. What does Rav Kook have to say about Torah study? Torah study is so central to our life. What is unique in his philosophy, in his derech, when it comes to Torah study? So the name of the sefer is Orot HaTorah. He has in the second chapter, the chapter which is about Torah Lishma, this very topic, what does it mean for a Jew to learn Torah Lishma? And he begins with the following. He says, what is Torah Lishma? Inyan Torah Lishma, L'Shem HaTorah. And here you see he's using the same language as Rav Chaim Volozhin. He comes from that school. By the way, he studies in the Volozhin Yeshiva. He's part of the great tradition of Lithuanian Torah learning. But then Rav Kook goes on to give another interpretation, another aspect of Torah Lishma. And before we read that, I want to read to you the following. And this is a story, just a short story about Rav Kook and Rav Kook's life. It's from Mo'adei HaRaya, translated. And it's a little bit of a taste of Hanukkah. We Shabbos Mevarchim. Hanukkah is going to be 25, 26 days away from this coming Shabbos. And this just gives us a little bit of a taste. And here, listen to the following story. A group of Jews in Panovich, Poland, who consider themselves Hasidim of the Rav, of Rav Kook, they built a synagogue and they named it Beit Avraham. So here in Poland, you have followers of Rav Kook. He moves to Eretz Yisrael, but they have a synagogue, they have their shul, and they name it after Rav Kook. They want to be like the Hasidim of Rav Kook. A scribe was commissioned to write a Torah scroll for that shul, for that synagogue. They wished to honor the Rav Kook with writing the first letter and sent a parchment to Yerushalayim. And it was the seventh night of Hanukkah, 1932. A ceremony was held in Rav Kook's home to mark the commencement of the writing of the Sefer Torah. So that's what they did. They sent the scroll from Poland. It came to the house of Rav Kook, and there he would begin the writing of the Sefer Torah. They would have a scribe continue to write the remainder of the Torah, and they would celebrate this Torah that is dedicated in honor of Rav Kook. And here's the punchline of the story. It is noteworthy, however, that although the Rav was overjoyed to participate in the mitzvah of writing on the parchment sent by his admirers in Poland, in principle he opposed the idea of having a group of followers assemble around him. He did not like that idea that there should be a particular shul or a group that will be his group, his Hasidim. And he said the following. He said to his close Talmud and friend, Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Charlap, he said, if I wished, I would gather certain groups around me to be my Hasidim and to disseminate my teachings, but I'm not interested in small, confined circles. I want to be a part of the nation. I don't want to be detached from the nation. Very, very interesting. In other words, you think about great Hasidic Rebbes, even the greatness of Chabad. Chabad is, you have Hasidim of the Rebbe. Rav Kook said, I do not want to have Hasidim. I don't want to have a group around me. I want to be part of OUisrael. I want to be part of the nation, and I want everyone in the nation to feel that I can be their rabbi as well, that I can be their spiritual leader. So with that, I want to now turn to the explanation of Rav Kook. What does it mean, Torah Lishma? Now we saw Rav Chaim Volozhin, and we saw that Rav Kook actually mentions the same idea of Rav Chaim Volozhin. What does it mean to study Torah Lishma? For the sake of the Torah, for the love of the Torah. But here Rav Kook adds something else. And here you can follow along. This is page 1. It's number, you see there's a 4 on the side of the page, on the left side. Enriching the nation's spirit. Hear the words of Rav Kook, the writing of Rav Kook. Echad mehadrachim shel esek haTorah lishmahu. What is one of the ways of Torah Lishma, when we speak about Torah Lishma? Laha'ashir et Knesset Yisrael. It's to strengthen, it's to make richer, to enrich all of the Jewish people, bekochot ruchaniim gedolim. When I study Torah, I bring a strength of Torah to the rest of the nation. That's part of what it means, Torah Lishma, from Rav Kook's perspective. It has to be a Torah that's not just an individualistic Torah, not only for me, that I'm studying Torah because I want that Torah to spill over. I want that Torah to have an effect, to fortify the rest of Am Yisrael. So this is a classic Rav Kook. Rav Kook is always concerned with the nation of Israel. And here, when it comes to Talmud Torah, that when we think about sitting down and studying Torah, we're here this morning, we're studying Torah for ourselves, but you know what? The Torah that we're going to study this morning is something that can have an influence on others. We're going to go for coffee afterwards, we're going to sit with somebody else, we're going to share, well, what did you just learn in the class, the shir that you came from? And here you are, bringing Torah, the Torah that you're learning is now expanding. It's now fortifying, it's now strengthening Am Yisrael. That's the way that Rav Kook sees it so beautifully. And he writes the following. Let's read one more line from Rav Kook. V'chol ma shemitrabe ora Torah, and the more light that there is of Torah, v'imach chibatach voda, that you bring a greater love and honor to Torah, belev echad beYisrael, where you strengthen just one Jew in Israel, that one Jew is strengthened in Torah, and one Jew is affected by that Torah. Harei hakoach hayesodi shel ha'umah mitchazek. You're now strengthening the nation. There's the physical strength of the nation. We have a great army, but there's the spiritual strength of the nation as well. When we sit and study Torah, we are bringing strength to Am Yisrael. That says Rav Kook, he sees that's part of Torah Lishma. Torah Lishma, the most noble way of learning, the most beautiful way, the most pure way, Torah Lishma, that we're davening for, is a Torah that's going to be expansive. I want to read to you just something that I came across the other day. You may have seen this story as well. A soldier, and it just seems to me as we're living these days, just as we're studying Torah, it's also very much the way I think Rav Kook would think about our study of Torah, that we're thinking about Am Yisrael as we're learning our Torah. There was a soldier that died yesterday. He was part of the Duvdevan, which is one of the elite units. His name was Yonah Brief, and he passed away after 14 months of being in the hospital. He was injured on October 7th, and imagine that he was in the hospital all of this time, and the suffering that he went through and his family went through. And there was an article where Naftali Bennett, who was the former prime minister, that he gave a hesped, a eulogy, and he writes the following: together with so many people, we prayed and hoped for Yonah's recovery, and Yonah did not give up. Even when doctors said it was over, he surprised them every time until his heart stopped forever this morning. His parents, Hazel and David, and his 5 siblings surrounded him with round-the-clock devotion. A wonderful Zionist family that immigrated from San Francisco to Israel and established a home here and feel such pain. May we be worthy of Yonah Brief's sacrifice. I mean this in a tangible way. Let us try to be a little Yonah. Let us not despair, just as Yonah did not. Let us not give up on ourselves. Let us put the country's good before our own. And that's the line that stood out for me just thinking about this Talmud Torah, to think about the country, to think about Am Yisrael as a whole. Let us put the country's good before our own. Let us care for our friends as Yonah did when he jumped into the fire to try to rescue his companions, and he took 13 bullets to his body. May the memory of Yonah be blessed and preserved forever. So that is the idea that I think Rav Kook is speaking about as well, that the Torah learning is a Torah learning that affects the nation, that impacts the nation, that fortifies the nation. Maybe with a little bit of a happier note, another story that came to mind. I just happened to come across the book this past Shabbos. There's a biography of Meir Zlotowitz. I don't know if you know that name. He was the founder of ArtScroll. So how did ArtScroll begin? Meir Zlotowitz, he had a company. He produced wedding and bar mitzvah invitations, and that was the name ArtScroll on that. And a friend of his passed away. Somebody he was very close to, and a young man. And it was just this time of year, actually. It was December time. And he said, let me do something for the family. Let me do something in honor of my friend who passed away. And he wrote the very first book. He sat down, he said, I have a few months until Purim. It was December time. I have a few months. Let me sit down. In hours every night, he sat with all the Mefarshim, and he wrote the very first ArtScroll book. Does anybody know what it was? Trivia. For 100 points. What's the first? It was Megillat Esther. It was ArtScroll on Megillat Esther. And I remember getting that, my father buying that for me. Everybody bought it. It came out. He thought it was just like this, but it changed the world. That Sefer, that ArtScroll, it changed the world. It changed the world. So here we have a man, Torah learning, caring about somebody else, publishing this Sefer, and from that Sefer, literally thousands of ArtScroll books, Sfarim, the ArtScroll Gemara, ArtScroll Yerushalmi, that has changed the world. So this is what Rav Kook has in mind as well. A Torah learning that impacts all of Am Yisrael, that can change the world. So that is the first idea that we share from Rav Kook. Torah Lishma is a Torah that is outward, the Torah that we learn, that impacts, that fortifies, that brings blessing to Am Yisrael. Okay, a second teaching from Rav Kook. That's teaching number one. We're going to do 3 teachings from Rav Kook. Number 2. And here I think Rav Kook is unique and certainly one of the first to say this. We can turn now to page 2 in our source sheet. And what we're about to read is from his Orot HaTorah. This is chapter 9, and it's the first piece in chapter 9. And the heading of this chapter is Darchei Torah Unesivoseha, the ways of Torah and its paths. And what does Rav Kook write? Follow your interests and talents. Kol echad sarich la'asok be'esek shelo. He says that every person needs to find their place. Now, esek, he's just saying in a general sense that everybody has their interests, that everybody has their skills, everybody is unique. B'meh sheyesh lo al zeh hachana, that every person is unique. Every person has a certain direction that they take in life. Ubeyichud hadavar, and certainly noheg be'inyanei halimud. This is also true in the world of learning as well. Now, this doesn't sound that radical, but it really is a radical idea, and very few spoke about Torah learning in this way, and that is that you have a unique personality, and what is it in Torah learning that speaks to you? What is it that inspires you? And Rav Kook says, where you find inspiration, where you find religious growth, that's where you should be studying Torah. Now, I never heard that. I heard I have to know Gemara, I have to know Mishnah, and this is what you need to know. These are the books that you really should not be learning. Right? The whole world, like to the world of Kabbalah, we all grew up, like you have to be 40 years old to study Kabbalah. You have to know all of Shas before you study Gemara. By the way, that 40 years old, nobody can find the source for that. Everybody knows that line, but it doesn't seem to be sourced anywhere. So here Rav Kook says, let's read on, even though it may be difficult at times, or you may be a certain scenario, you live in a certain place, or where there's a certain expectation to learn certain things, mikol makom, nevertheless, sarich sheyeh amitz, you have to be strong. V'lo yazov edma shemachshir biychud et rucho. What is it that speaks to your spirit? What moves you? And here Rav Kook is opening up the idea of Kabbalah, of spiritual learning, of the more mystical learning, but whatever area it is. So there's a wide variety. There's so much that we can learn, and every person has their place in Torah, and everyone is to find their place. And what you find inspirational in Torah, pursue that area of study, and that's what Rav Kook advises. And there's another issue as well that Rav Kook is concerned with. And look at the next paragraph. This is from the 6th piece in this chapter test, chapter 9. Yeshnam sheyatzu litarbut ra'ah. And there are those who have left the fold, what we call going off the derech today. Yeshnam sheyatzu litarbut ra'ah mipnei shebederech limudam, because the way that they're learning, or the way they're told to learn, v'hashlamatam aruchanit bagdu betchunatam, they are betraying their very essence, their very nature. They're being forced to learn things, and here we have to find the balance and what's right. But for somebody who finds Gemara learning difficult, who finds Mishnah difficult, some of the complexities in that area, maybe we don't harp on that. Maybe we find other areas of learning that will be inspirational. So he says, why have they turned away? Why have they left the fold? And we know that Rav Kook is very concerned with the Jewish people and every Jew in finding their place within Am Yisrael. So they left because they're learning material that's not speaking to their neshama. And he writes the following, that there are those who have an inclination, who have desire to learn the Agadah. The Agadah means more of the stories that are found in the Talmud, more of the philosophy, people that are drawn to that. And they find the area of halacha, and I think here it means halacha, Gemara learning, the classic, learning Mishnah Brura, right? Learning those areas of learning that they don't relate to them as easily. Liot asuk bahem bikviyut, it's difficult for them to study them on a regular basis. Umitoch she'enu makir la'arich et kishrono miyuchad, because they're not addressing their kisharon, their talents. Hu mishtakea be'inanei halacha, they find themselves kind of stuck, that they're not comfortable where they're learning. Kefia minhag hamurgal, yes, that's what everyone else, that is what's ragil, what everyone is told to learn. But you know what? There are exceptions. There are different personalities, and people are drawn to different areas of learning. V'hu margish benafsho nigud le'ela inyanim, and you feel a nigud, you feel that you're resistant to this kind of learning. Shuosek bahem mitoch ha'ishtakut bahem ena lefi teva kishono ha'atzmi. It's not your innate ability, it's not in your nature, it's not your character. So here Rav Kook, it says something that I don't think I've seen in other writings, other rabbis, kind of saying there's a big world, there's a wide world of Torah learning. There's Agadata, there's philosophy, there's Navi, there's Halacha, there's Gemara, there's a lot to learn. Find your place in learning. Don't let anybody tell you you need to be learning the following. Find that area of learning that speaks to you. Let that be inspirational. And he says that's the key to successful learning. And I think he was a man before his time or beyond his time that he recognized, and I think we recognize more of this today, that we're sensitive to this in yeshivot and day schools, and yeshivot here in Eretz Yisrael as well. Right? What is it that's speaking to our students? How do we bring that Torah learning to them in a way that's going to be meaningful? As I was reading this, I just wanted to share which relates to this week's parsha, and this I would say is Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch has his famous commentary, Rav Hirsch on the parsha. Originally it was written in German. It's been translated to Hebrew and to English, one of the classics. And I would say this is one of his most famous teachings, which really relates to what we just spoke about. And that is we're going to be reading about Yaakov and Esav. Esav, and we know that Esav goes off to take another path. He does not follow in his parents' desires and the Jewish way. And why is that? What happened? What happened with Yaakov and Esav? This is what Rav Hirsch writes. I'm not sure if you ever heard this, well known. And he says, and I quote to you, this is word for word from Rav Hirsch, to try to bring up a Yaakov and Esav in the same school, make them have the same habits and hobbies, want to teach them and educate them in the same way for some studious, sedate, meditative life is the surest way to court disaster. It's the worst thing that you could do, to have two children who are not similar to one another and to try to educate them in the same way. This is what Rav Kook says as well. Let's think about and let's look at every personality. Let's look at what they need to learn, what speaks to them, what's inspirational. And he says that was a great mistake that Yitzchak and Rivka made. And he writes the following. I'll just read to you just two more lines. Had Yitzchak and Rivka, and this is some very, very strong language and a strong idea. Had Yitzchak and Rivka studied Esav's nature and character early enough and asked themselves, how can even an Esav, how can all the strength and energy, agility and courage that lies slumbering in this child be trained to become not a brave heroic hunter, but a hero before God, then Yaakov and Esav could have remained twin brothers in spirit and life. Quite early in life, Esav's sword and Yaakov's spirit could have worked hand in hand. And who can say what a different aspect the whole history of the ages might have presented? Those are the words of Rav Hirsch. So this idea is a very important idea. It's important in our homes, with our children, with our grandchildren, with our great-grandchildren, to recognize that not everyone is the same, not everyone is to be educated in the same way. And as Rav Kook says so beautifully, we have a great world. We have a multitude of Torah learning, so many paths, so many ways to learn Torah, so many different areas of Torah learning, and to find that and to present that to our children, to our grandchildren, and for us as well, to find our place in Torah. Beautiful. So that is the second point that Rav Kook makes. The third teaching from Rav Kook, and we can now turn to page 3. And whenever we talk about Rav Kook, everybody here knows that we're going to learn something about Torah learning in Eretz Yisrael. Right? For Rav Kook, everything revolves around Eretz Yisrael. And what is different about learning Torah as we are right now in Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael? Is there something different about being here than if we were sitting in Muncie, or if we were sitting in Baltimore, or if we were sitting in Passaic? Right? Is there anything different about the Torah learning of Eretz Yisrael? And Rav Kook says there's something dramatically different about the learning of Eretz Yisrael. So let's take a look at that right now. This is page 3, the top of page 3. This is from Perek Yud Gimel in Orot HaTorah. It's the 7th piece. And he writes the following. Knesset Yisrael bichlala chaya b'chutz la'aretz chayim she'einam mikoriyim. Those that are living outside the land of Israel, Knesset Yisrael bichlala as a whole, that live in chutz la'aretz, they are living a life she'einam mikoriyim. It's not an authentic Jewish life. It could be a very beautiful Jewish life, right? But it's not the real. It's not authentic. It's not the real. It's not mikoriyim. It's not the mikor. It's not the source. And what is he? Well, let's read on. We'll see what he means by that. We can think about that in many different ways. He says, "V'kal v'chomer," and this is really interesting. Kal v'chomer means how much more so shetalmidei chachamim, when it comes to the great rabbis that are living in chutz la'aretz. Now he's going to say that the great rabbis, and to me that's such a radical idea. I think, the Hamonam, maybe they don't quite get it right outside the land of Israel. But he says even more so the great rabbis that are living outside the land of Israel, that they don't get things quite right. Meaning, sheyesod chayehem hu chaim ruchaniyim, the very essence of their lives, the very spiritual life, haseichel, intellect, dat, knowledge, hergesh, emotion, hakedusha ve'atara, these are people of holiness and purity. Shebechutz la'aretz einam yecholim lekabel or chayim mikorim. They cannot receive authentic Jewish and holy life that only exists in the land of Israel. Now, how does that play out? How does that play out in terms of our Torah learning? So here, just for the sake of time, let's go to the translation, this next paragraph, and let's read this, let's see this together. One result of this lack of authenticity is an artificial rivalry between different areas of Jewish life. So one of the things that happens is that in Torah learning, that there seems to be a contentiousness between areas of Torah learning outside the land of Israel. There, meaning outside the land of Israel, each strand of hair jostles the other as it sprouts out of a follicle in its spiritual development. Each sphere of life struggles to grow at the expense of the other. Now, what does he mean by this? Let's read on. Public instruction, community advocacy, service of God, good deeds, halacha, agada, conventional Torah study, esoteric Torah, academic research, Kabbalah, ethics, poetry, lighthearted humor and solemnity, Talmudic pilpul and logic, Hebrew grammar, and midrashic exegesis. All of these are superficially separated, but not inherently so. Outside the land of Israel, all these different parts of learning, all these different drachim of learning, they seem to clash with one another. They're not working together. There isn't a synthesis in learning outside the land of Israel. In the essence of life and their inner flow from the treasury of elevated life experienced by the soul, they all emanate together, united and coordinated, but externally, they emerge divided and distant from one another. It seems that each field must be wary and fear the other. Each waits to rise up as the other stumble to benefit from their ruin. Now, what is Rav Kook referring to? I think one of the classic examples of this, and I think he is referring to this, even though we see he gives a number of examples, is the world of Hasidic learning and the world of Lithuanian learning. There was the Hasidic style of learning, a more spiritual, again, a little bit more on the mystical side. We have the Balatanya, we have the founder of the Chabad movement, and then we have the world of Lithuanian learning, which is the world of learning Gemara, the complexities of Gemara, of the world of Halacha, and those worlds clash with one another. Not only did they not disagree with one another, but there was a disrespect from one world to the next. And to bring in a sefer, let's say in a Lithuanian style yeshiva, to bring in a sefer of the Balatanya or Hasidic sefer, that was unacceptable to bring that into the Beis Medrash. And it was true the other way as well, that in the Hasidic courts, and the Hasidic yeshivas, to bring in Sfarim from that world was also not accepted. There was a clash, there was a disrespect. This is what Rav Kook says is the Torah outside the land of Israel. That outside the land of Israel, that you have this tension, that there's a sense that there are different camps, and they remain isolated from one another. And he writes the following, I efshar la'achdut amiti, and here we come to the end of this piece, we'll come back to the Hebrew. I efshar la'achdut amiti v'shalom el yom malei chayim. It's not possible to have a unity, shehu ba be'emet mishefa shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that comes from the very name of God, Hashem Shalom, Gufei Ikrei Shalom, that the very essence of God is peace, Litpatea Klal B'chutz La'aretz. This oneness cannot emerge outside the land of Israel. Yes, please.
So my question is, you don't have the same thing here, meaning,
Yeah, okay.
I'm not an expert on it, brought in a Rav Kook sefer, let's say, to a Hasidic.
Okay, good. That's a great question. So your question is Rav Kook writing this idea? Is it something that is a reality? Is it something that we see? So we'll comment on that in a moment. I think it's a good question and a very important question. Yes.
I wanted to turn it the other way.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the very great Rabbanim that lived outside Israel, Rabbi Feinstein,
Yes.
Leipzig, how do you connect that to what he's writing here?
Okay. So you're saying that outside the land of Israel, there was a unity, there was a oneness of the different camps at a certain level. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. So those are two good questions. Let's see if we can answer them. Yes, please.
He also includes academic research.
Yes.
Lifetime of humor.
Yes.
Seems radical.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
And I wanted to comment that these days there are yeshivot that, there are yeshivot that are more inclined to
Okay, good.
In other words, and if you look at Rav Kook as a prophet, it didn't have to be what was going on at the time.
Yes.
There will be in the future.
It will be in the, okay, so that's one answer, that it will be in the future. The other answer is maybe it is unfolding, which I think it is, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I want to look at one other source. Where does Rav Kook get this idea from? In other words, it's a very nice idea that, to make the claim that only in Eretz Yisrael we have this unity of learning, that we have a synthesis of learning of all the different styles of learning, the different camps, that they all come together in the land of Israel. But where does he see this? Now, we know that one of the inspirations for Rav Kook, his teachings, his life, is the Maharal of Prague. So I want to share with you the following. The Maharal of Prague makes this claim as well, and how he makes this claim, and really based on a pasuk in the Torah. So it goes all the way back, the Maharal, all the way back to the Torah itself, this idea. But let's turn to page 4. I want to see this. I want to share with you the following source. This is a Gemara. We're on the top of page 4. The Gemara says, this is in the last chapter of Gemara Psachim, Kuf Yud Gimel, Amud Beis. It says, Shlosha sonim ze'edzeh. There are 3 that hate one another. Shlosha sonim ze'edzeh. This is a Gemara in Psachim. Kakalavim, dogs hate one another. Tarnagolim, roosters hate one another. V'chavarim. Chavarim mean people from this town of Chavar, whatever that is. I don't know if anybody's a dog lover. I don't know if anybody is a chicken lover. But somehow the Gemara says here that they don't tend to like one another, that there's a animosity, that they scuffle with one another, these dogs and chickens. V'yeshomrim, and it's true also, afaz zonot, that prostitutes, that's what the Gemara says, that harlots, that there's an enmity, that there's a hatred amongst prostitutes. Okay, we can think about why that may be. But then the Gemara says, and here's the shocking line, V'yeshomrim af tamidei chacham shebebavel. Now, with this list of dogs, roosters, prostitutes, the Gemara then says that it's also true of the great rabbis that live outside the land of Israel. That's what the Gemara says. This is a Gemara. I'm just reading to you the Gemara. Af tamidei chacham shebebavel. So what does that mean? So this is, and the Maharal of Prague wants to try to tackle this challenging Gemara. V'yeshomrim, look at the words of the Maharal. This is from Netivat Torah. He wrote a sefer called Netivat Olam, the Maharal of Prague, a section where he has all about Talmud Torah, and a lot of a beautiful sefer all about all the different aspects and ideas of Torah learning, and he has this Gemara. V'yeshomrim, and he just quotes again he's beginning with a quote from this Gemara, V'yeshomrim, af tam yechavim shebebavel. V'davar ze yadua. And this is, you can understand this in the following way. Shekol emtsa'i hu echad. That which is in the center, shekol emtsa'i hu echad, that it brings about a oneness. Ve'eretz Yisrael be'emtsa ha'olam. And the land of Israel, we don't always think of the land of Israel this way, but this is what the Maharal of Prague says, that the land of Israel is in the center of the world. We are sitting right now in the center of the world. The Zohar says that when God created the world, he began with this spot, the spot in Yerushalayim, the Rabbi, and the world then expanded, meaning this is the center. We're in the center of the world right now. Kamoha nikudashi achad be'emsa ha'igul, like the dot that's found in the center of a circle, of a wheel. Umipnei she'eretz Yisrael kamoha nikudashi be'emsa ha'igul, that Eretz Yisrael is like the center of a wheel. Shehi mekasheret kol hakavim hayotzim min ha'igul. It's like the center, we have a wheel and you have the spokes. You have the spokes that are coming out, but that center is what holds it all together. That's the place of unity. Ulekach ha'eretz goremet l'tamidei chachamim sheba sheyesh lahem achdut v'kishur. So what happens in the land of Israel, says the Maharal of Prague, that it has an effect, this oneness has an effect on the rabbis of Eretz Yisrael, l'tamidei chachamim, that there's a greater sense of unity of rabbis. And then one more line, umikol shekain ki Hashem yiparach shu echad, being that God is one, hu elokei haaretz. The pasuk says in Devarim, Vav Daled, that Hashem is the God of Israel, of this land. Meaning that God's presence is here, that Einei Hashem Elokecha ba, that God's eyes are on the land of Israel. So what do we find in Israel? That geographically or physically, metaphysically, we're in the center of the world, but also that there's a oneness because God's presence is here. God is one and God's presence here, and that brings about a oneness of the Talmidei Chachamim. He brings one other Gemara, Rav Zera Kisalek La'ad. This is 3 lines from the bottom of that paragraph, right after it says, Baba Metzia Pei Hey Amar Aleph, Rabbi Zera Kisalek La'ad Yisrael. When Rabbi Zera left Bavel and he went up to Eretz Yisrael, Yasiv Mea Tanisa, he sat 100 fasts, Delishtakeach Minei Talmuda de Bavle. He wanted to forget everything that he learned outside of the land of Israel. As he was making Aliyah to Israel, he wanted to forget everything that he learned before he came to the land of Israel. Ki heichi delo nitride, so that learning would not weigh him down. That's what the Gemara says. He wanted to forget all of his learning. The Maharal of Prague understands this to mean not that he wanted to forget all of the Mishnah, the Gemara. He wanted to forget the conflict of learning outside the land of Israel, the competitiveness that's found outside of the land of Israel. That he wanted to forget, that there's a unity of learning in Eretz Yisrael that is not found outside the land of Israel. The question was asked, is that really true? I think there is truth to that. When I was in YU, I don't remember I was in Yeshiva University for college, I was there for smicha, and I don't remember any classes in Hasidus, any classes, we were there to study Gemara, we were there to study Halacha. Today, if you go to YU, you go to Yeshiva University, not only are they studying it, but they have, as part of their staff of rabbis, they're rabbis that are just teaching that material, that are teaching Chasidus. And you'll walk through the Beis Medrash, and you'll see that in the Makom, next to the Gemara, that there'll be Hasidic Sfarim as well, that students are studying both. Now, where did that come from? How did that change? I was in YU 30, 40 years ago, a long time ago already. We didn't have any of that. There wasn't a Hasidic Sefer in sight in the Beis Medrash. Not only do you have Hasidic Sfarim, but you have people that are, again, rabbis that are there to teach that material. What changed? What changed in the last 30, 40 years? And I think the answer is very simple. What do you say? Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael. That students were coming back from Israel, and for the first time they were coming back, not only were they exposed to Talmudic study, to the regular halacha, but that Hasidic study has become part of the curriculum and the study of yeshivot here. And when the students were coming back, they wanted that as well. Then YU said, okay, we have to hire some rabbis that can teach this material. That was never done in the past. But what do we see? Something happened in Israel, and Rav Kook said, maybe prophetically, that this is going to happen in the land of Israel, that there's going to be a unity, that there's going to be a coming together of all the different camps of learning. There's a story that's told in Rav Kook's home, and you can see it today, that when you walk into the living room, that there's a picture of the Balatanya, which is the founder of the Chabad movement, and the Vilna Gaon next to each other on the wall. And you can see that today. It's still hanging there from when he lived in the home. And so the story goes that somebody said to him, I see that you have, the founder of Hasidus and the Vilna Gaon, and they were really arch enemies, that the Vilna Gaon put the other into Cherem, and here you have them hanging on your wall. And Rav Kook said they're not only hanging on the wall, but they're on the walls of my heart as well. That the two of them sit side by side in my learning. And this is what he wanted to bring to learning, and this is what he believed Eretz Yisrael does for learning as well. That it brings together, that it synthesizes all different learning, the world of Mussar, the world of Hasidus, the world of academic learning, that it brings all of that together. Why does it do that? According to Maharal of Prague, because there's an avira de'ara, there's something in the air, there's a spirit there is a ruach, there is a godliness in the land of Israel. That oneness of God that exists in the land of Israel brings together all of our learning. Okay, so that is, and I hope it's true. No, I hope it's true. By the way, as you pointed out, if you go in the Hesder yeshivot today, you will see that they're studying Gemara and they're studying a lot of the Hasidic material. They're bringing together all the different worlds, all the different camps that are being studied together. And if we haven't accomplished that, attained that fully, we hope that it's something that will happen. Yes, please.
On a one-to-one basis,
Yes.
Yosef Soloveitchik had an ongoing dialogue with the Lubavitcher
With Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's true. That is true, yeah.
created a mutual
Yes, okay. You're right. You're right. No, it's a good point. That was the question I was asked before. When we look at the great Gedolim of America, do we say that there really was a tension or conflict between them? I'm not sure. I think those are examples of people that really wanted to make peace, with one another. They respected one another.
not just to make peace, to
Yeah.
learn.
I'll tell you something interesting. I mean, let's say Rabbi Soloveitchik and the yeshiva world, the relationship between the Gedolei Torah of the yeshiva world and Rabbi Soloveitchik. Would you say that was a friendly and embracing relationship? I don't think there was. I don't think it's true. I don't think we can say that about that relationship. Yes, please.
It's true today. We have the yeshivish
Okay.
world.
So you're saying we haven't.
Even Chabad is not in a certain way.
Right.
Of course, when we celebrate, well, you.
Yeah.
I think they're the definition. On the other hand, you have yeshivish
Right.
world, which is like
It doesn't mean that we can't have different worlds, and we do have. There are different yeshiva, there are different styles of learning, different emphasis. The question is there respect between them and a cross-pollination between them? In other words, do we have Jews that are learning? And by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but so many people are learning Chabad, Hasidus, that are learning Tanya. It's like taking over the Jewish world, like everybody's learning it. We take that for granted today. That was not true. How did that happen? Rav Kook would say, and my sense is that Eretz Yisrael is a big part of that story. Something has happened here in Israel that all the disparate camps of learning, that there's a greater synthesis, that there's a greater oneness, a unity of learning, that people are learning and comfortable learning. And you could hear in a lecture that a rabbi will get up and will quote from Hasidus and from Chabad and from Litvish and from the Vilna Gaon, the Balatanya, and nobody bats an eye. 50 years ago, that was not the case. If a rabbi would get up and talk about the Vilna Gaon and the Balatanya, together, that would already be problematic. Who is this guy? We're walking out. Yes.
But you're talking about the Hesder yeshivas, etc. But
Yes.
what about in the Haredi
I think it's true in the. I think it.
in the Mir?
I think it's true. I think it's true there as well. I think it's true there as well. I think in the world, I have a son who's in the mirror. He's not so open to the Hasidic learning per se, but I think even that world has taken. There's a lot of Hasidus. There's a lot of the Musar. That all of this is like coming together in a way that we have not seen. That we have not seen the last 100 years. What's that? Oh, Rav Kook. Yeah, that's a good question. That world has not embraced Rav Kook yet. No, they have not. No, they have not. And that's part of this equation as well. This teaching of Rav Kook. Can we study all of these? Can we bring them all together? Rav Kook believed that we should. And believe that, and the Maharal said it as well, that it's going to happen in Eretz Yisrael. This unity of learning, it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen maybe 100% across the board, little by little, and that's the beauty of Jewish learning, the synthesis of all the great ideas, the great symphony of Torah learning that we can appreciate all different aspects. Yes?
I just think that maybe they don't quote Rav Kook.
They secretly, right?
Some of his philosophy.
You might be right. You might be right.
Expressed without using
Yes.
the source of it. So
Yeah.
hopefully that would be
Very good. Very good. Yes, please.
No, it can happen in Eretz Yisrael, or I'm not sure it can happen at all Chutzlaretz. That's what you're talking about.
That's Rav Kook's claim, and he says it you can go back and look at the text. He says it's not feasible, it's not possible to have this unity, to have this synthesis outside the land of Israel, because there's something inauthentic about Jewish life there that creates the borders and the boundaries between the different camps of learning.
And there's more separation.
There's more separate. That's right. That's right. That's what he claimed. That's Rav Kook's claim. I think we see that. I think we're seeing it unfolding. Yes, please.
How do you influence, let's say, well, I had experience with Mir Yeshiva, and I also taught in Rav Soloveitchik's school.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah, well, but anyway, we had a program, an after-school program.
Yeah.
And it was at Mir Yeshiva, which was on Ocean Parkway. You probably know
Okay.
where it is. And they got rid of the programs where they had math teachers after school with tons of material and reading teachers, and they decided they don't want secular education.
Okay, I think that's a different discussion.
Is it really? I mean, they're not really bringing
Right, okay. I think
to the real
here we're focusing on the different areas of Torah learning and how they synthesize. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Did you want to make one? Yeah, one last point. I just want to get to one last point as well. Yes, please.
How does this fit in with the relationship between the Dati Lumi and the Haredi Jews?
Dati Lumi and Haredi. I think Rav Kook believes that we're going to see we're moving in a direction, and maybe that's true today as well. Maybe it's true of the last 14 months, that we're moving in a direction that we have greater respect for the other movements and what each movement brings to the table, and to see the positive, and to create this a synthesis of learning and relationship. Wait, let me just, if you don't mind, I just want to get, because I see we're just at 5 minutes, I just want to get to the very last source, and we can take questions at the end and comments. So the very last source, so we've seen 3 different paths of Rav Kook, and one last idea that I think bring it all together. So this is a Gemara that's found in Shabbos. It's Daf Lamed Amud Beis, and it says the following. You probably have heard this Gemara, well-known Gemara. It's about, what's that?
Is it on the page?
It's on the page. It's on page 4, source number 2. Page 4, source number 2. Yeah, thank you. So you're right, I don't have it. It's, yes, it doesn't say Shabbos here. It's a Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Ki had de Rabba, mekame de patach lehu l'Rabbanan. Before Rabba would begin his shir, before he begin his lesson, Amar milsa de bedichusa, that he would begin with a joke. He would always begin his class about Rabba. It said that he would begin with a joke. Ubadche Rabbanan. And what does that mean? And all the rabbis laughed. Not only did he tell a joke, but it was a good joke. They all laughed at the joke. Lisof, then in the end, Yasiv be'emasa. Then they all sat down be'ema, in fear. In other words, that they now got serious. Upatach b'shmaita. And then they started the lesson. And then the shir began. So this is a very well-known Gemara. This is how he started every shir. By the way, there's, if you ever watch Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, he's one of the most popular lecturers and teachers. Almost every time he gives a class, and he opens with a joke. He opens with a joke every time, and it brings everybody in, and it settles everyone, and opens everyone up to the learning. So Rav Kook has an interesting interpretation of what this means. Again, the basic is, it's a nice way to start a shir. Even though I don't believe Rabbi Soloveitchik, in the thousands of his shiurim, ever started with a joke, and many rabbis do not begin with a joke. But that was Rabbah, and the Gemara seems to like that idea, to begin with something light, with some humor, to begin the class. So Rav Kook has the following interpretation. We're just going to read the opening 2 lines. This is from his Einayah, his commentary on the Gemara in Shabbos. Shekachi midas hachachma. When it comes to wisdom, sha'oneg haruchani, the spiritual joy that we feel, hanizgav, this very, very elevated feeling of joy and learning, lo yavo ki'im acharei amel gadol. It only comes at the very end of a lot of hard work. V'kinyan rav shel chachma v'dat. In other words, when you begin the process of learning, so there's a long road ahead. It's difficult. You're sitting with a Gemara. You know you're coming into a class. It's going to be an hour going through the material. So it feels a little bit heavy. It feels a little bit heavy to do that. So what does the rabbi do? She'al kain harav hagadol, the great rabbi that begins the class, kvar b'torato rak lo yeteh nitiyah simcha. He knows the joy that's going to come at the end of the learning. He understands everything. He's analyzed the sugya. He contains that joy. V'shashua b'divrei Torah. So what is the rabbi doing? The rabbi is giving you a little bit of a taste and giving you a little bit of faith to hold on to, that there's going to be a lot of joy at the end. Okay, we have a long process here. It's going to take us days to get through this sugya, a very complex sugya, a very difficult Gemara, halachic topic. I'm going to give you a joke to begin, not just a joke, some humor that it's lighthearted, but that you're going to get a taste of the joy that's going to come at the end of the learning. When you finally understand, when you put in the amelut, when you put in that effort, when you overcome the challenge of learning, that you're going to feel that joy in the end. And I just thought this was a beautiful interpretation where Rav Kook emphasizes that at the very foundation of learning, there has to be a joy. That there has to be a joy in learning, that we feel a happiness in learning. And he was makpid, Rabbi was makpid every time to begin that way. And I think everything that we spoke about, the three ideas that we spoke about today, are all about a joy that we feel in learning. We feel that our learning is a learning that's going to bring strength to Am Yisrael, that it's connected to Am Yisrael. We feel a joy that we're connected with Am Yisrael. When we feel that it's personally uplifting, that we find our area of learning, and Rav Kook emphasizes that. Find your area. What is it that speaks to you? Is it Kabbalah? Is it Halacha? Is it the Agadata? Is it the stories? Is it reading stories of Gedolim? They say Reb Nevinsal, who's the great chief rabbi of the Old City, that at night they see that he's reading art scroll books of stories of Gedolim. And he says that he also needs inspiration. Like, this is one of the Gedolei Torah, but he finds inspiration as well in that. So what is it that speaks to you? And pursue that. And that's the happiness. And the other happiness is the happiness of feeling a great synthesis in our learning. That we're learning from all different areas, all different camps. That there isn't an animosity that, yes, it's been part of Torah learning for a long time. Rav Kook says it was part of the Galut experience. Chasidim and Misnagdim, that they went head to head with one another. Let's put all of that aside. We come back to Eretz Yisrael. This is a place of unity. God's presence is here. And we feel a great joy when we feel unity, when we feel harmony, when we feel that all areas of learning are open to us and we grow from them. So we should all be zochet to learning Torah that brings us great joy, that brings us great meaning, and should be uplifting. Yasher Koach, I'll take anyone's questions and comments. Happy to hear. Yes, please.
That the joy, the reason everybody gets united more in Israel is because of the joy that people know that Mashiach is coming.
Okay.
The Geulah is coming.
It's a very beautiful idea that we feel that we're on the path outside of Israel. In the Chutz La'aretz, we don't feel that in the same way. Here we're more connected to that path of Geula that we're on, and that's a joy. Yes, very, very nice. Yeah, please.
I feel like we see it in the synthesis of
Army.
you know, how people come from many different walks of life and they join together.
I think it's absolutely true. I think that's part of the unity, that we really are in it together. In other words, you don't have that sense of nationhood outside of Israel in the same way. Everybody's in their communities, everyone's educating their children, everyone's trying to have strong community. Here we're working together to build a nation, to survive, to thrive. And with that Torah, that affects the Torah learning as well. That we're more connected and interconnected in our Torah learning. I agree. Beautiful, yes.
And I think that, just to give a shout out to the Orthodox Union, TorahBy, we have,
I think it's true.
absolutely, you know, I think it gives us a
I think you're right. I think you're right. If you look at the teachers and look at the learning, if you look at the writers in Torah Tidbits, you'll see a lot of different, yes, there are a lot of different paths. And that's part of, again, yes, thank you. And I think that's, Eretz Yisrael is part of that, yes.